about 50 minutes after we actually started. Right, so I'm here with Lady Lullaby.
Call me Crystal in the hangout.
Oh, I'll call you Kristen in the hangout, but I won't mention the surname.
Thank you. That works fine.
Oh, bad luck, you stalkers. Right, now, right. So we're going to be talking about Model G INFJ profile. Yes, I use MBTI terms because I want to be understood by the majority of the audience. So, right, and then I'll talk about the... So, Crystal, how much time do we have? Do we have about an hour?
Yes.
All right, okay. And we even started half an hour earlier.
I know.
Right. Right. Oh, it's a little bit of a lag. I'm trying to get it all in.
Okay.
Ah, that's it. That's perfect. Now, oh darn it! I put the wrong graphic on. I put the wrong one on because I was supposed to be explaining about the position.
Oh, that's not where you're starting. Okay.
No, it's old. I won't show that. I won't put that one on. That's an ENTP type joke.
Yeah, we'll say that.
Oh. Right. Right. But that would be an example of NE, though. I might show that later.
Okay, that's fine.
But it was a juxtaposition. It was a cake, a romantic gesture. But what he was apologising for wasn't very romantic, and it's just the juxtaposition of those ideas. Can we go in a little bit more? I hate the lag effect that makes people overshoot. Right, that's a bit. Oh, is that clear enough?
Yeah, that's great.
Right. Okay. We have today, folks. We're looking at the social mission. We're looking at the first function of the social mission block. Right, and so I would say the social mission is like the ideal, would match up with the ideal career for the INFJ. So, probably counsellor, the way Kersey has them. What do you reckon, Crystal? Are you a bit of a counsellor?
Always. Unpaid, but yes. I'm not paid for those services, but they're given daily.
And as such, when you are counselling, are you using more FE or FI?
I would think I'm using more FI, but I don't know if that's right according to your chart.
Yeah, I mean, according to Victor's model, it's those two functions work together.
Yes, they do.
And it's so hard to separate them out. And I don't know if that's the case with you. Like when you sort of learnt the definition of NI, then learnt the definition of FI, is it like hard to like sort of untangle them from each other?
I actually feel like NI is pretty clear, separate from FI. I have a difficult time because comparing Socionics definitions of FE and FI versus MBTI, like those two blend and call them the same thing when Socionics prescribes something different to FI than what I got accustomed to thinking. And it was a great eye-opener for me because I had already always related to several of the explanations of FI, but just was told, oh, I guess I don't use it very much. And so I like this model because it explains how I do both. That I very much so care about harmony. I very much so am attuned to other people's emotions, but I also worry a lot about the distance between me and other people and how that defines our relationship and helping others define their relationships according to their their values and their needs and things like that.
Yeah, I think if people look at, like, let's say the descriptions on Wikisocion of, so it gives the definition of FI as ethics of relations, but when you actually look at, like, the block where it, like the paragraph where it talks about it, because, oh, this is actually included in, like, the MBTI definition of FI as well, because it is talking about, say, when you're looking at the FINE, and their FI paragraph, it is talking about them staying true to themselves and their ethics and things like that. And so it's not just the determination of a sense of psychological distance between people, but I would say the sense. Yeah, go on.
I was going to just mention that that's how we determine the distance that we keep or not, is based on the values.
Yes, yeah, and is that the psychological distance is the effect of the INFP knowing exactly how they feel about everything and everyone on a finely grained scale. That it's based off that.
Sure, and I think that's a wonderful way I differentiate against them versus myself, because I'm capable of doing a similar thing, but I don't necessarily have as hard and fast rules about in my life, out of my life, close to me, not close to me. It isn't as clear cut, it's more dynamic, it changes, because it's based on what their needs are and what my needs are in that particular moment of how we're interacting. And so I'm attuned to the distance and the space and the needs and my values on a particular topic of discussion, and so I'm more conditional. And I guess for someone with FI that would sound very wishy-washy, but to me it makes a lot of sense, because I don't feel that I just don't think that we're static. I feel like relationships are dynamic.
Right.
They're constantly changing, and with new information, new conversations bring new things to light, so it shifts and it changes. And in the counseling role, it isn't my job to determine for someone else the perfect, exact, proper rules about how to live their life and how to govern their relationships. It's to find out what's important to them, what makes them at peace, and help them recognize the ways that they're behaving that interferes with that.
Right, and that's how Kersey pretty much saw the INFJ counselor, that they are able to look at an ethical issue from different sides, whereas the INFP might be more, usually, unless there's someone like Hannah who's like really studied ethics and stuff and has like learned things from different sides, they can be a bit more. Although it depends on the individual. I almost got in trouble in the last video for generalizing too much about NFs. I got in trouble with my own conscience. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that.
I think that.
Yeah.
Do INFJs do that often too, or is that? But sometimes I will find myself assuming, well, we're the same type, so this is how we feel, and I get in trouble because I realize, oh, that's how I felt. I'm sorry. I should speak for myself instead of make those assumptions. So it wouldn't have offended me. I would have known that that's how you feel, but we have to word it that way.
Well, Maria said something interesting, that the INTP tends to romanticize their FI. And so it's something that is, as they get older, as they get past 30, a recent thing for both of us, they see it as an area to work on. So it's not an area they're constantly monitoring.
Yeah.
And so they'll like criticize themselves on it. Whereas for the role function, for the vulnerable function, the break function, it's like, oh, they don't even want to work on that area, really.
Yeah. It just takes up more energy.
Yeah, except maybe INTP, INFP can learn to be more assertive, like do self-defense, things like that. But nothing much beyond that. They're not going to really want to go out wrestling bears or anything, or they're not going to do like the sort of things that Dario's been doing, because he's an INTJ and SE suggestive, and he actually calls it aspirational. So he loves all that SE stuff.
Sure, exactly. I like the word aspirational because I think it explains why for some, especially in the males of INFJs, they can be mistaken for SE types. Because they are aspiring to those qualities. But I was going to change subjects because looking at that first block, that management block,
yep,
and it says government of the psyche in charge of setting goals and making decisions.
Yep.
I agree with the idea of it setting goals, like giving you an aim and your focus, but I don't understand how that can be applied to all 8 functions in that block, because how does introverted intuition make a decision?
Well, this is probably what the Kersey people would say. The Kersey people, the clever Kersey people would probably say, hey, you're being too elementalist in this system by saying this bit does this and only this in isolation. So yeah, but maybe we can say, I see what you mean from the person.
Like it works for you. It works for you. TI first does help make decisions, but it doesn't work for me. NI, it's not making decisions at all. It's creating perspectives. It's a I don't see.
Well, what we'll do is I'm being adaptable now. I'm going to change the plan slightly and actually see what it says, and actually see, so I don't forget. If we go to the NI slide and look at the bullet points, because then we can actually see, what we've discussed, that point about making decisions. It will change in a moment. You see what it is? It's an SVG file, so I can zoom. So because it's an SVG file, then I can keep zooming in and zooming in and zooming in and zooming in, and it rescales, and that's why it's so sharp. So you get a that's why you don't get any blocking on an SVG file. But you can't post them on Facebook. It doesn't like SVG files. So
it's exclusive to Hangouts.
Yeah, or maybe I have to send the So
romantic approach to life, a gift for dreaming big and anticipating positive changes, and wait patiently until they happen. I do feel like I have a romantic approach to life. I think that I do have a capacity to dream big. I'm always looking towards the future, but I actually don't feel like I am certain of a particular direction for my future. Like, I have wishes and hopes, but I'm not confident that this is how my life will go. And so having that, I'm going to wait patiently until they happen, doesn't really apply to me, because I'm not confident that they will happen. Does that make sense? Right. Am I throwing you off? Is this okay? I'm being really honest.
No, this is fine. This is fine.
Okay. I'm like, maybe I'm supposed to match it perfectly, and I don't relate to that. Trust their gut feelings, yes. Strives for positive thinking, yes. Brings others' attention to the ways current problems can resolve themselves. Yeah, well, that's what I mentioned before about the counseling role. Is I do always think that things can be improved, changed, and resolved. Knows the right moment to approach a person? Most of the time. I think that works offline, but online, no. I have no way of knowing if it's a good time to talk to somebody or not.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is you don't get, and I try to use TI, because like you don't have, you've not got tone of voice, you've not got facial expression, you have very little information about someone's schedule.
Right.
And it's like the only way you can work out the appropriate point to approach someone is you have to sort of find out some more information.
Absolutely.
In terms of their schedule. And then you can...
I have to go into SI mode, you know, or I guess I be inquisitive and ask questions. Prefers hints and allegories to direct statements. Actually, I think I need an example of that. Are we talking about when I'm reading a book or when I'm having a conversation? Because when I'm off in a place of fantasy and I'm reading nonfiction or, you know, I'm watching a show, then having allegories is delicious. But when I'm communicating with people, I might be the one that speaks in allegories, but I don't necessarily prefer listening to others talking in allegories.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because you've nuanced that bullet point for people.
Okay.
So yes, it probably is a bit of a combination of that in different situations.
Okay.
But
so nothing here to me makes decision making, except unless you think you know where your life's going to go, then that could be considered making a decision. But I've already said that I don't.
It might be also that these two blocks work together so much, and we'll do FI in the next video. That I'll just say something that Kersey wrote about NI. Just read through, and we sort of did this, so I know which paragraph to get to. I know which one it is. It is paragraph 4 on page 153. I'll read this out. Right. This type of idealist has strong empathic abilities and can become aware of another's emotions or intentions, good or evil, even before that person is conscious of them. Really? Such mind reading.
You don't think so?
Well, maybe. I was just thinking that David Kersey's got. Now, Jeff said something about this, but he thinks that each chapter, he thinks the NF chapter is written in an NF way, the SP chapter is written in an SP way, and the NT chapter is written in an NT way, and that he adjusted knowing that
who would be reading it?
Yeah.
Works for me. Well, he's appealing to my NF side, I guess. Because I do think that I do that, but not with everyone I meet. It's people that I know well, that I have experience with. I can tell where they are heading. I can sense when circumstances happen, what kind of emotions it's going to create in them, and then I can kind of predict how they're going to feel. So,
and that is when the NI and FI work together.
Yeah.
That is when they're linked together in the social mission block. Those two. So that's a good example.
What's interesting that as I'm getting older and spending a lot of time talking to people who are INFJ, who are much younger than I am, and I can see what's happened from rocky roads in my own life. I remember being as confident and as self-assured in my intuitive gut instincts as they are, but I've learned how we're not infallible. We sometimes have projections that are mixed up in our difficulty in understanding how we feel in a situation, that clouds our ability to really understand where someone is coming from. And because SE is so low for us, we don't always do a good enough job of gathering real world data to back up our instincts, and we can be wrong in a big way. And so the fact that that's what we do, that we make predictions, before someone else knows themselves. It happens, but I would say it's more often that we do so and stick to our assumptions and offend people because they know some other things about themselves that we don't know. And with that information, we would come to a different conclusion. And so people who get frustrated with INFJs, that is why. It's because they're not very humble in accepting that that instinct is only good to a point. It doesn't wash out all information. We're not so psychic that we don't need to actually know a person or ask questions or, get more data. Does that make sense?
Yes, and it actually fits with Jeff says that that's one of the things he doesn't like about NI types is that they'll take one bit, especially the younger ones, and extrapolate based off that bit, whereas through experience, oh, I need a larger sample size.
Yes.
Or not just take this one thing and extrapolate it, but
right.
After knowing the person longer and having more of a sample size of now I've got a sense of now I've taken the measure of this person.
Right.
Now based on that measure,
yes,
I can go forward.
Because it's so easy to especially when I was younger, oh, they remind me so much of so-and-so. And then we just build this whole story of that must mean that because they're like them in this way, that this could happen, they're probably like this. And we create an image of a person before we've even really gotten to know them. And that affects how we interact because now we've assumed we've got them figured out. And sure, there are things that it allows for closeness and relationship with them that's positive because we can tell what's important to people very quickly. And so there's that sense of, wow, you get me, and how weird is that? Like we barely met, that's crazy. But taking too far, they're not an exact copy of the person that they remind us of, so we can get into trouble. And the more people you meet, the longer you've been on Earth, the more variety you recognize there is. And for me, at least, I'm not as quick to assume. And I sometimes will have a gut reaction, an instinct tell me something about someone, and I'll feel pretty confident about it. But if they tell me something different, then I will then disregard my instinct for a while, and two things will happen. Either time will pass and I will find out that they were telling the truth, or time will pass and I will find out that they were in denial, weren't self-aware, and I was actually right. And there's no way to know for sure until that time has passed.
Yes, that's good. Right, so generally you tell people who are younger that because I remember when I was like at university, like if anyone said something on television about experience, my eyes would roll.
Of course.
Yes. But then we go. Such mind reading can take the form of feeling the hidden distress or illnesses of others to an extent which is difficult for other types to comprehend. Even INFJs can seldom tell how they came to penetrate others' feelings so keenly. Furthermore, the counsellor is most likely of all the types to demonstrate an ability to understand psychic phenomena. What is known as ESP, so for the younger audience, extrasensory perception, may well be exceptional intuitive ability in both its forms, projection and introjection. Such supernormal intuition, special powers, is found frequently in INFJs and can extend to people, things, and often events, taking the form of visions, episodes of foreknowledge, premonitions, auditory and visual images of things to come, as well as uncanny communications with certain individuals at a distance. What's that? Remote contact? Astral projection.
Well, you could make it very romantic and very sci-fi fantasy, and I wouldn't take it that far, but it's very fun. I think we probably really enjoy shows and books about that type of thing because it sometimes can feel when we have those moments of a sense of knowing something isn't right, somebody needs my help, Like we feel this sense of angst and anxiety, and then a thought will occur, you need to call your sister. And I will call her, and she's like, oh my gosh, thank you. How did you know? I'm having the worst day. And then, she needs to talk about it. And you have that sense of like, yeah, how did I know? I don't know. I just knew. Well, a scientific person, and I've been married to an INTP too long, that's probably my problem, is he can go back and say, well, the last time you talked to her, you could tell this and this was probably going to be building up. And you just decided, your psyche decided it's time to check in. He kind of takes away the mysticism for me.
Yes, TI with the NI. It's like, where is the NI? The NI is gone. It's vanished.
Yeah.
It's just TI.
So maybe, I don't know, it depends on if you find that to be a balancing effect, or if you are INFJ power crazy and you think, oh, don't let them make you trust your intuition. Like, don't just trust it. I don't know. I feel like I have grown to... Two things have happened. I've become more humble in saying, wow, there's a lot of things that I've been wrong about. But I've also recognized that it is something that's a skill if I get better at pacing myself. And like we said before, gathering more information.
Pardon? Your sound just cut out slightly.
Oh, I was just saying, if I pace myself and gather more information.
Right.
So, like we said before.
Right. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the feature of the model in terms of okay. Oh, I almost clicked on the wrong thing. I almost clicked on stop broadcast because I thought I got mixed up with like the stop share screen. Right. Oh dear. Right.
But you didn't, so
It's gone black. No, will it come back?
It does.
No.
It comes back, doesn't it?
Here we go.
Yeah. It's just slow. I've learned that. We've done this before. It comes back.
Right. Oh, I don't want to mess this up now. We're going to stay on this for a while because it's the perfect size to get it all in. Right. So, folks, the blue square. It's the dominant function. So you're probably going to accept what I say when I say it has the maximum energy. You have the most energy for your lead function.
Absolutely.
People are nodding and saying, yes, Ben, move on. We understand that. So I'll just say what this is from. A little bit of this is from the machine translation at the top, so the English might be a bit clunky. Endowed with excess capacity, it consumes the lion's share of the psyche's energy. Yeah. Right. The more powerful the first function, the more distance the communicative field covers.
Explain that to me.
Okay. Thank you. I'll take that challenge up. I suppose it means that when you encounter someone, their dominant function is the most visible one. And the one that is most comes through in their language, and the one that defines them more, I suppose.
Do you find that true in your experience with NI leads?
You see this is where MBTI has a good point, where it talks about that you interact in society with your top extroverted function.
Right. What do you think? Do you think NI is? I feel like perhaps it's clear if they're really comfortable speaking in the language that NI speaks. But I find in my upbringing and my experience with other people, you learn because of the extroverted feeling what is socially acceptable or what people relate to, and not very many people relate to the way I would like to word and phrase things. And so in my own private writing, in my own journaling, in my own poetry, I can get as abstract and as metaphorical as I please. But when trying to speak with other people, I don't enjoy feeling that eccentric. Maybe some people, maybe Enneagram 4 or INFJs would love that and they'll play it up. but I don't enjoy feeling that eccentric, and so I don't always talk in allegories. I do with certain friends, you know, some of my more intuitive friends, we can go for hours making analogies, you know, and that's the bulk of our conversation, and it's a lot of fun. But it's not how I speak in everyday terms, just because most people, they feel tired and, you know, roll their eyes. They're like, I didn't come to be in a literature class, like, let's just have a chat.
Yeah, so yeah, that's probably like, that might be something that's lost in translation for that, about the communicative field. Because I do acknowledge that from MBTI, where it talks about you interact in the world through the top extroverted function. And in certain situations, you will notice an INTP is NE before their TI.
I do.
But I think you're exactly right about INFJs because you do have FE. Just by the nature, this is what I talk about before, is that the functions are not equal. FE will want to, like as you say, it has an interest on how it comes across to other people. It's the function that is the function concerned most with somebody thinking about their image and thinking what the other person thinks of them. So, like I said, the functions are not equal. It's just like I would talk about SE is more determinative than NE, because SPs are in the SE mode far longer than NPs are in NE mode, just by the nature of the function. That when you do see an NE person who's in NE a lot, it's like, whoa, eccentric.
Yes, yes, I think I know a few, and they delight me, but I think they do drive a lot of people crazy. So it's true.
Whereas the nature of the SE function itself, it's a function which is waiting to be stimulated.
Yeah.
Whereas, so it's a low energy function until it's like something happens. And the best example I can think of is Sultai in Battlestar Galactica, where when it was like routine, he hated routine. He was an alcoholic. People would think, why does the Dharma keep this guy on as second in command? But as soon as like the pressure's on, he makes the right decisions. He's not being an alcoholic. So it's like extreme stereotype view of what an STP would be like. And he even said at one point, I thought it was a really good bit of writing where he said, I shouldn't have to say I love you. Isn't it enough that I just feel it? And NS was saying, no, it's not.
It is not. Absolutely not.
I want it in the sky.
That's right. You should tell me every day, please. Did I lose you, Ben? It's black and there's no sound. if I keep talking. I don't know what I'm supposed to talk about. Oh, I have an idea. I found an article that talked about the difference between introverted thinking and socionics and introverted thinking and I.E.I. Let's see if I can find the article with that. If I don't, well. It's basically saying that we mix some of the things about N.I. I was telling you to talk about my INFJness. What's so unique and different to each INFJ? The more INFJs I meet online, the more I realize our brains might work the same, but our motivations are all very, very different. Okay. So, here we go. Then I, MBTI, say this function allows a person to gain a sense about the future by processing data through impressions and meanings. We find ourselves discovering how the future will be by signs, trends, and patterns. We will find relationships between many ideas and find ideas similar to those ideas in order to look for a main idea that is made up of these